It's a new day in the shop, and today the TJ is going to get some love. I guess this TJ is going to get some love since I've got two of them. I am going to be leading a night ride here coming up in a couple of weeks, maybe about a month or so. And Meatball's broken, something with the ECU's going weird. I'm still troubleshooting that to make sure before I throw parts at it. The overland is broken, something with the timing is a little bit off. I think the spring tensioners on the timing chains have broken prematurely, so that's parked because that's an interference engine. And then also I'm dealing with an ECU issue on that as well. So the ZJ needs a ton of work still. I'm waiting on parts for that. You'll see that video here soon. So this is going to be my rig for the trail ride. It should be pretty all right. It's got the sway bar disconnects on it. It's got good mud tires, and it's a TJ. I mean, Wranglers just have off-roading in their DNA. So to get this ready for a night ride, though, we need to make some additions. I need some new headlights. These ones don't work very good in the real dark. I'm kind of not looking forward to changing those because I do like the way that the stock lights look on this, but that's okay. I've got some rock lights for it. I've got some switches, and got to do the wiring for all of that. I got a winch plate coming that should bolt up right to the frame, still work with this bumper. And then I've got a winch for it that came off a Meatball because I just put the worn winch on that. But let me get the parts out and we'll start easy on the headlights, and then I'll work my way deeper into the rock lights and everything else. All right. So the headlight style that I went with is these LED reflectors. Get one out of here. I've always seen people run these. I've never run them myself. Always been curious if they're any good, so figured I'd try them on here. They do have DOT SAE stamped into them, so they should be pretty decent. That's pretty much the only thing I look for with an LED headlight besides the design of them. Just make sure they're gonna have some sort of a decent light output. You might not even have to pull the hood open, but it's open for all the rock light wiring and such. Where did that go? Guess that would explain why it was loose. The little spot weld for this retainer has failed. It's supposed to be right there. Oh well. Clearly it didn't need it. There's three more, right? Let's make sure. Fits over that. I have had that happen before on the 5x7s especially, where the retainer ring doesn't really fit over the lens, so I always make sure to check that. And then before throwing it all in, I'm going to check functionality. Low beams. Seems to work. Set that aside. Not too bad. Like I said, I do really like the way that the stock one looks. The character of this Jeep, having that OEM Plus look, I really liked, but the functionality of this is going to be pretty immense, and I'm definitely going to need it, so this is a worthwhile upgrade, I think. All right, then when you put LED headlights in, you're going to want to aim them. I can show you right now, even with all the stuff on the wall. I don't know if you can tell, but the LED is definitely pointed higher than the halogen. So if I stand here, well, let me get this piece of foam will do. If I stand right here, if I block the LED, you can see the halogen is right about at those needle nose pliers on my workbench, and the LED is, the whole beam is higher. So we need to aim that down before we get going too far. What I like to do is I will aim the LED down to about where the halogen is, and then once I get it out on the road, I can tweak it and adjust it as needed. That's the kind of the quick and dirty way without measuring and getting your distances, making sure you're on level ground and all that, because level ground is hard to come by around here with a nice, clean, unoccupied wall surface. So I'm going to get this one aimed down, and then we'll move on and do the next one. Alright, I got the light aimed down. If I cover the LED, you can see it's almost exactly level with the halogen right there. So that's perfect. So we can move on to the next one, do the whole same thing, and then get on to the next part. Alright, let's talk rock lights for a minute. If you are somebody who has rock lights only in your wheel wells above your tires, odds are your rock lights are not doing what they're supposed to do, and you just want them to drive around town with. It's just how it is. So on something you want to off-road, you want your rock lights to light up what's in front of and behind your tire so you can see what you're running over, and it also illuminates the ground a little bit just around the general area. They're really good for helping you see what you're running over. They're good for camp lights. You can show up to camp, flip them on. They have a nice little ambient lighting without being super bright. And I'm going to show you, I've got 8 rock lights in there because they're cheap ones. If I had nicer ones, I'd probably only do 6. But my preferred method for rock lights is 2 under the front, in front of the axle, 2 under the seats, and then 2 in the very back behind the rear axle. Now on a TJ, that's going to be pretty hard to do because it doesn't have a lot of overhang either direction. On something like the ZJ, I'd go under the radiator support, under the back of the driver's seat brackets, and right at the gas tank straps. That seems to be a pretty good general rule of thumb. That's what I run on Meatball. I'll put some clips in right here. Meatball's rock lights are phenomenal. Everybody comments how nice and smooth of a light output it is and how usable it is when we're actually out on the trail. So I'm going to try to mimic that here. All right, so what's strange about these rock lights that I guess some people will like, some people won't, I don't love it, is they have all these connectors on here, and they are certainly not waterproof, so I'm going to have to do something about that. I'm going to put some dielectric grease in there or something to help keep the water and dirt out. But they do come with the length of wire, which is nice. The connector I don't like. And then it comes with this harness that has 2 leads on it, which are just absolutely tiny. And that has to be 18 gauge wire to run all 8 of these. That tells you how not bright these are going to be, if I'm honest. But then it branches off into this spaghetti of connectors that they're all supposed to connect to. And then what is nice is the length of wire that came with it is longer than the Jeep, not even straightened out, since this thing is so small. So I will have more than enough wire to connect everything together, even with all the routing up and following the frame and keeping it nice and tidy. So I need to find some self-tapping screws, and if not, I need to get a little drill bit and get underneath this thing and see where I'm going to do it. Fortunately, they do come with all of these double-sided adhesive pads. They also come with this hardware that I am just not going to use. Usually the hardware that comes with cheap stuff is just junk. So you can use these double-sided sticky pads to stick them up, see if you like it, stand back and look at it. And then if you do, drill them in. If not, rip it back off, start over. So I'm going to use that just to stick them up temporarily, and then I'll screw them all in. All right, I'll go over where I place my rock lights real quick. In the rear, a little plastic piece right there. Figured that'd be pretty good. They are inboard of the tire. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it because of where the camera is on my phone, but they are inboard of the tire, so they're not going to get covered up too much. I think they'll be okay. Centers, just right into the body. Nothing too special there. One in the front, one in the back. I see the wires hanging down, roughly split between the wheel wells. In the fronts, I'm not so sure about. So for now, I zip tied. Let me see if I can get some light in there. For now, I zip tied them to the frame so that I can run wires and get a visual of how it looks on the ground with it all lit up. And then if I'm happy with it, I'll do a more permanent install. I think I'm going to be happy with where all of these are though. So I'm going to start routing wires and zip tying everything up and making it look kind of nice. And then we'll do a test fire to see how they light up the ground and go from there. All right, so for the switches on this, on the interior, I bought one of these little switch panels that replaces the HVAC vent on the dash here. This is the dash piece out of the inside. I personally don't like the heater or air conditioner, which this doesn't have AC, but I don't like the heater blowing straight on me. I prefer it to blow either down at my feet or up the defroster. And I'm only going to have two switches on this. I'm going to have the rock lights and some spotlights that are going to be on the front bumper here. So 2 switch panels seems perfect for me. So I'm going to pop this vent out. This should pop right in. And then we can start looking at fitting switches once I confirm fitment here. So it looks like these just push straight out. Just like that. So you can see there it's got just little clips on each side. This one's actually broken. The piece with the lever doesn't actually control the rest of them. And then the switch panel here, you can see it's got the same clips on it. It has an outline on the back here to cut out for the tall rocker switches, which is what I have. The front just looks smooth, but I want to make sure it fits before we go start cutting it up. Just like that. And this is a different color. This is black. The rest of the interior is faded gray. It's actually been repainted a couple of times because it's supposed to be the light gray color, and then it was painted this dark gray. So having a third color is just going to be part of the fun, I suppose. But I'm going to get these cut out and get the rocker switches in here. I'll grab one real quick. Just got these nice little rocker switches for it. Pretty standard off-road style thing. This one has the, let's see if this will focus, spotlights on it. The other one says rock lights. I don't have it within arm's reach, but I'll get these installed into there and then we'll start running wires to the interior. You can see I got all the wiring underneath wrapped up, except under the hood I need to shorten this wire because it's so long I could almost tag it over to the ZJ battery. So I need to shorten that. And if you look here on my loom where it splits, the 4 that go to the driver's side are wrapped in loom. The 4 that go to the passenger side are wrapped in loom. It just makes it look much more seamless of an install, almost like nobody was in here. I didn't care to cover this part up very much. If I really wanted to, I could tuck it underneath and all sorts of stuff, but we'll pretty it up all the way once I flip the switch and make sure everything's working. So back to work for me. I got my rocker switches in here. I really like the way that looks. They're a little stiff because they rub on the outsides of this, just the size of the switches that I bought. But that's okay. They look really nice and they're very clear about what they do. So I'm going to talk about the wiring on these for a minute because for some people these are kind of intimidating. Nylite does a great job of including the wiring diagram inside each of the switches that you buy from them. And I actually keep a couple of these around just for in case I buy one that doesn't have that. If I accidentally get one from a different company or something. But I'm going to explain what all this does. So method A, accessory switched power source. The reason it's like this with a jumper from 2 to 6 on that switch is so that when the accessory power is on. So like if your key is flipped forward, then the bottom of the switch will light up, because these switches have two separate LEDs in them for the backlights on these. So if you do it this way, then when the switch has power, the bottom LED has power. If you do it this way, when the switch always has power, the top and bottom LEDs will light up at the same time. So what I like to do is I like to run the accessory power by itself, or actually just a battery, because I like to have my lights available even if the engine's not running. So battery to switch, and I actually split these so outgoing goes to its own thing, and this switch number 6, or this pin number 6, will get power with the headlights. So if the headlights are on and it's dark in the cabin, this backlight is on. So if you have two switches, they come with all these pre-wiring, which is really convenient. But if you get two switches, you can mix and match them like this. So you can see my grounds are pigtailed together like this. So I got the pigtails for the grounds. And then my batteries, because my battery to the switch is going to be the same on both of these. So if you can see right there, my battery power in on both switches is the same. And that comes off of this terminal here. And then my power to the LEDs is this wire over here. You can see I have that bridged from the left switch to the right switch. And then each of these individual ones down here is out to the accessory, which in my case will be out here to a relay. So if you do it this way, the switches will get power from the same source. You only got to run one power wire. And the backlights will get power from the same source, from the headlight switch. So you'll only have to run one wire for that. You can bridge these grounds together, which I'm going to do. So you only have to put one ground wire and then out to your accessories. So I hope that's a little bit helpful to kind of see how the way I do it. And I'll show it more when I get it all installed into the Jeep, show it working and stuff. But I wanted to show that real quick because the way I wire it is not exactly the same as these diagrams say. All right, here's a look at the light pattern that we have coming off these lights. I can tell you right now, these are not even close to as bright as what I have on Meatball, but you can see we've got a nice even spread of light all the way around. We can see what we're going to run over in front of our tire and behind our tire. Not really this spot outside of where we're going, so if we're at hard right turn, it might be a little difficult, but if the wheel is turned, that shadow should move out of the way because the light is right up in there. Overall, I'm pretty okay with this for $25. Can't really go wrong with that. See, nice and even in the middle. Nice little spread behind the tire. And there's a blind spot in the middle where the gas tank is because it sticks down a lot lower than the lights are. You can see the lights above the exhaust here. But I think that's okay. Like I said, we're using these lights to see what we're driving over. Not to see up on the top of our wheel wells or anything. So overall, I think that'll be pretty solid. I just wanted to stop for a minute and do a proof of concept, I suppose, before I continue wiring up the switches. All right, next day working on this Jeep. I got the rock lights pretty well finished up. I've got the switch installed on the interior, but not run to the outside yet because I'm actually going to be running two signal wires, one for those and one for these lights that I'm putting on right now. I also don't love the way that these lights look on the front of this Jeep, but as kind of a saving grace, they're a similar size and shape to the factory fog lights that came on these, and they're going right in the factory fog lights hole. Let me flip you around real quick. The bumper has the holes already, so I already got that one in there just to kind of see what it would look like. It's just rested back against the fender for now. Honestly, these might come back off after the night ride, and replaced with something else. But for now, they're good enough to go on here. And more importantly, they leave room for the winch plate that bolts into these factory bolts right here, and then another spot right there underneath the sway bar cover, which on this Jeep is really strange. It's got a whole bunch of holes drilled into it from all sorts of stuff, apparently. I feel like things were being zip tied onto here. That's the only thing I could think of for there to be so many just random holes. But anyways, no drilling or anything required. These just sit right in there. So I'm going to get these mounted up and then start wiring. What's interesting with these lights is they have two different power circuits. You can see a red and a yellow, and the black is just the ground. So the outsides of these lights are powered off of one circuit, and the center spotlight is powered off of another circuit. I think it's this way because these use actually quite a bit of power. If you watched the Porsche Cayenne build, you saw I actually had to change wiring harnesses to run 6 of these at the same time. And we couldn't even use the center sections. We had to use just the outsides only. So they're pretty high power lights. So I think a regular off-road wire harness can handle just the 2 of them. I really hope so. I think it's got 14 gauge wire on it. That should be plenty for just these 2. But definitely gonna make sure to check the brightness. And they have these little side shooter reflectors to go off the sides, and they're functionally very good. I have a little bit of everything. They got those side shooters, they got kind of the spot pattern over the top, they got the real good flood pattern on the bottoms, and then the long distance projector in the center. So we'll get these things wired up, get them aimed roughly with the headlights, and then hopefully tonight I can go take these out on a drive and show the performance of everything, including the rock lights in the pitch black. So I'm going to mount this up real quick, get to wiring, which is boring and tedious. I'm not going to show any of that. And then jump back in when we start doing some testing, I suppose. All right, I think I got all the wiring and everything wrapped up. So I'm going to show you how everything functions and how everything's wrapped up together. I actually do need to do one more zip tying underneath, but I got these lights run with the wire just underneath this plastic cover. I made sure that it's loose enough that I can remove the cover, put the winch plate on right here, and then put the cover back over it, because I know that the winch plate is designed to go underneath there. So I left enough room to do that. Got everything tied up nicely. It comes up here along the inside of this. You can see zip tied in a couple of places. These wire nuts were here when I bought the Jeep, and it runs perfectly fine, so I'm leaving them. I don't want to get into that if I don't have to. This is just going to be loose on top of here. Eventually, I would like to go to a distribution block like what I have on Meatball, but I don't have that luxury for now, so that's just going to sit there. Here's my relays, and then all the wiring is loomed and tied into the factory routing there. All zip tied together and pretty. And it goes down, there's a grommet right under here where my finger is, factory on the TJ. So I just drilled a hole in that. Looks like I forgot to snip one of the zip ties. That's okay. Just do like that. So then, of course, under the dash all the way up into here, whatever, 2 are switches. And I said I'd explain how the lighting works the way I showed my wiring earlier in the video. So if I turn the headlights on, you can see the bottom of the switch lights up, but not the top. And if I use the switch, the top lights up and tells you what's on. And of course you can do that with the headlights on. Same thing. So that's the way I like to wire it. So that way at night you know where your switches are. But then it also still gives you the on-off thing. But dash is back together. As far as lights go, this thing's good to go. Now here in a minute, we'll get it out on the road. It's pretty dark outside now. You could probably see out that window right there. But there's a little bit of time, and it's warm in here because I ran the heater. I've got some time left today to start on the 4-wheel drive shift linkage. So let me pop that out, and I'll show you what I'm going to throw into it. All right, so packaging explosion aside, I got a cable shift linkage for the transfer case. Now, these Jeeps all the time have the shift linkages. The Jeeps of all of these year models, the TJs, the ZJs, XJs, They all have the transfer case linkages fall apart. There's like 20 moving parts. The bushings all blow out. They come out of the brackets. It's a whole mess. They fix it on WJs by making them cable operated. And I've run the upgrade direct linkages on, I have one on Meatball and I have one on Pee-wee, but that one's not going yet. And I was thinking about putting one on the ZJ because the ZJ needs a transfer case leakage, and you'll see that more in that video. But I've never run an aftermarket cable shift, so I'm going to try it on the TJ. It seems like a good candidate because it needed something anyways. And theoretically, this should be pretty simple to install. There are 0 instructions, but how hard could it be? It's a cable and 2 brackets, right? So I'm going to start working on this thing, see how far I can get on this, and then probably after I eat some food, we'll go take that test drive in the brutally cold wind outside and test out these lights. It's another day working on the TJ today, and hopefully today is the day that this thing is going to be night ride ready. I've got my shop helper in here with me today, and we are going to get the winch installed on this old Jeep right here. I've got the winch plate sitting over there. It just came in today. I've got my winch over there on the shelf, so hopefully we can get this thing on. So I'm going to go get everything unboxed, show you how it bolts up to the front bumper here, and then we can actually get this thing out tonight and do all of our light testing. Alright, so here's the winch plate. It's pretty self-explanatory. It has cutouts for the little bumper things here. It's got holes for the bolts. It's got spacers for these back ones so that there's not a big gap under here. It actually presses against hard metal. Comes with all new hardware. It comes with a bunch of other hardware. And since this is the rust belt, I'm going to put some anti-seize on it. So this will be pretty easy. Bolt it all down, tighten my wires up to where I want them. Either paint this sway bar or cut up this cover to fit on there to make it look nice. Slap a winch in here. So I'm going to get started. Alright, winch is installed. The control box always falls off, so I don't bother doing anything with that. I've used this winch for a lot of years on Meatball like this, so it'll be fine like that. The install was pretty seamless. I wasn't able to use that cover plate, but whatever, that's fine. And then I've been having a blast under here. Installing a cable shifter for the 4-wheel drive. If I were to do it again, don't know if I'd go cable shift. In this application, it's just really hard to get it in here on the TJ. And that could be the one that I bought, could be all of them. But it kind of sucked to put in, doesn't feel as tight as the solid linkage. But I think that's part of the nature of the connectors here. They are pins instead of bolts. So anyways, I got that finished up. And if we jump into the interior, I haven't put it back together yet, but feels really good. It goes all the way into low range. I guess I should put it in neutral. But it feels nice, and that handle I actually changed out because I had a spare. This one was all crusty and nasty and full of junk. That's about everything finished up on the TJ, so I just got to wrap up a couple more things, finish putting the interior together. And then here in a couple hours after dinner, we will go do our night run, test out all the lights, aim the spotlights, check out the rock lights, and that'll wrap up this video. So see y'all here in a few minutes. I'm actually pretty happy with those rock lights. If only this thing would run good. Thank you guys for watching. That's all that I'm going to be doing on the TJ for now. It needs a couple other little things, like the rear diff is leaking a little bit, and the front passenger U-joint needs to be replaced on the axle shaft. But otherwise, that thing I think is ready to go for a trail day. So if you like this video, make sure to stick around for more projects like the ZJ here. This one's coming up next, and this one is going to be a lot more of a monster off-road than that TJ is current condition. So stay tuned for that one. I hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.